when you get to that point in your business and don't necessarily have a plan on how to navigate it, it gets scary. And then you sit there and you're like, well, what's wrong with us?
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips. Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 137, and today we are talking about some tips for surviving a slow season of business, which we're going to have a little bit of a vulnerable moment with you guys, but we've been in a slower season of business since, the last 5 years of what we've been doing. I'd say this summer has been pretty slow. And I think some people, like photographers, videographers, people in certain seasons typically are used to having a slow season. For us, it's not consistent.
No. And in the past, anytime it seems like it's slowing down, we all of a sudden get an influx of inquiries and then things start kicking off because we've always brought this up, and Abby always gets a little bit more nervous before I do. And she always brings it up and I'm like, oh, don't worry. Now that you said that, our inbox is going to fill up and things are going to kick off. But, this time around, it hasn't quite been the same. It's been a little bit slower, and we didn't have that influx of things come in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the level of inquiries is lower than usual. And I think we've been kind of talking about this of just trying to look at trends and looking at, okay, what was happening last year? And last year we didn't see a decrease during the summer months. It was actually chaotic. And maybe we didn't see a decrease from a revenue perspective, but Courtney was on maternity leave, right?
Yep,
you were on maternity leave
in September, I believe.
Yeah, and the SEO projects were heavy. So I felt like I was drowning just because I lost my other half,
Mm-hmm.
So it felt busy. But if we were both here, maybe it wouldn't have felt that way. So it's hard to do a comparison. But from a revenue standpoint, we didn't see a massive dip.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like this summer, being totally transparent, it's felt like more of a hustle than ever before.
Mm-hmm. And a scary hustle.
Yeah.
And trying to kind of just brainstorm and come up with ideas of okay, what's happening, or how do we have to find other ways of bringing in revenue, or do we have to bring on other things to offer?
Mm-hmm.
Should we change our offerings, or should we have lower ticket items? What is it that's happening? So we've been brainstorming a lot of that stuff too, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. But I think when you get to that point in your business and don't necessarily have a plan on how to navigate it, it gets scary. And then you sit there and you're like, well, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with our business?
You start questioning everything. I think during slow seasons, which slow seasons are totally normal.
Yes.
But I think during slow seasons, you start to question, what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It's just a slower season. But I think we question our offerings. We question our pricing. We question, are we attracting the right people? We question what is happening, and we start to internalize the slowness as an us problem rather than it just being a season.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of talked a little bit too about how summer overall, I think this summer especially, we've noticed trends of people just taking a step back. I took a month off. I think a lot of people were taking time off and just doing real life stuff, which is, that's what happens when you work with entrepreneurs and you work with small business owners who can set their own schedule. We think of summer as a time where we can take a step back.
Right. And I think too, when that happens, and then we tend to work with a lot of females who are also moms, and that's a busy season for them with their kids. But then right at the end of summer is back to school. And that's a crazy season too.
Yeah.
And people aren't focused on their businesses so much. They're focused on getting their kids ready for back to school and getting back into routine. So, you come off the heels of summer and then you're right into this really busy back to school season. And again, parents are focusing on their children at that time, not necessarily their business. But then I think after back to school, and I guess we'll find out here shortly, hopefully, things will start to ramp up again, right? Because the holiday is right around the corner. People have, promotions or offerings, or like they want to refresh on something. And then they really start to dive back into their business because everybody's back in a routine, right? So they're back into their routine. They can focus more on their business. Summer's over, back to school started, and then they really just go forward and dive into their business. And then we're right around, like New Year's right around the corner, which is when people really try to reset and really look at their business and the things that they need to do to drive forward.
Well, we're approaching the season too, where people are ready to spend more money, typically because you need to spend more dollars before tax season comes around, right? So we're also approaching that season where people are like in a different mindset. And I think right now people are feeling the pinch of how expensive things are in life. Like you go to the grocery store and you're just like shocked at how much it costs to buy, a thing of raspberries. Like it's ridiculous. So I think people are feeling the increase of prices across the board. So that as small business owners, you also have to increase your prices, or you have to make sure that your prices can match your lifestyle because you also have to take home money to be able to afford those raspberries. Like at the end of the day, everything's going up. And I think people are just feeling the pinch right now. And it's all the more reason why you should make sure that your offerings are communicating value. Like the value that you're offering and the things that people are paying for is worth every penny.
And not just value as in like money too. Like obviously you want to be like valuable that way too, but also like what is the value of working with you? What are they going to get out of it from start to finish, as far as like the offerings that you have and like the value that you have and what
and
you
the results
to the
after
table and the results of what is going to happen after you work with said person. So I think making sure that value doesn't always mean price point. It also means like what it is that you give with your service or your product.
Yeah. And then we've also talked a little bit about it being an election year.
I've brought this up to Abby multiple times and I'm like, I think election years, people get scared to spend money because there's an unknown factor, right? We're going to be electing a new president in the White House and we all, I think, people don't realize it. I think it's kind of just like the subconscious
psychology.
Yeah. Like we're thinking about it and it's in the back of our brain. So therefore we are holding our money a little bit closer to us at the time because it is an election year and there's just this unknown factor in the air. And I think a lot of people are holding back because it is an election year. I brought it up to her a couple times and we're like, I don't know, is that a thing? Is it not a thing?
Right.
And then I talked to another small business owner and she said the same thing. She's like, and I didn't even mention election to her at all. And she's like, I'm feeling this too right now in this season. And she's like, you have to consider, it's the end of summer. So people were focusing on summer. And she goes, and it's an election year. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. So it is like, it's not just affecting us. We're hearing it from other small businesses too.
Yeah, I Googled it too because I was like, is there any stats or anything out there justifying that? And there isn't actually. It was like saying that consumer spending typically goes up during this time. And this is not talking about like people investing in their business. This is overall consumer spending.
Yeah.
But there isn't a tie to consumer spending and elections. So it's interesting because I totally think there's something to that. Like with the psychology of the unknowns, like no one likes change, things are shifting, and you might just not even realize it. So I'm sure there's probably not a study that's done at the micro level of entrepreneurs, small businesses, people spending their dollars. But from a consumer spending standpoint, like if you're a product business owner, you might not feel it according to the stats of what's out there. But
yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious, anybody who follows us and listens to our podcast, if that has crossed your mind at all, the election.
Yeah, for sure. So as we were researching a little bit about this episode, I was looking at like, okay, what is happening out there? Like, what kind of tips do people have when business is slow, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs? And there's so many articles out there about taking this time to work on your business, to update processes, to revamp your newsletter, to work on all of the things inside your business. And
to do all those glamorous things that you wish you had time to do, but you never have time to do.
Right? And here's the thing, like, those are great tips. Reality, you probably should do that, because we all know, like, slow seasons it's a season and it's going to come back around. But when you're in it, like when you are in this slow season, it causes a panic. You aren't exactly in a creative mindset to go and revamp systems or write blog posts or write a new welcome sequence for your newsletter. Like,
you're not feeling refreshed.
No, you're not feeling
chaotic.
Creative. Like, you're not going to have this logical, creative brain that's going to be able to work on those things during the season because you're stressed. Mm-hmm. And we initially just create this panic of maybe it's not a season, maybe it's forever. Like, we know that that's probably not true, right? But
gosh, let's hope not.
But in the moment, it's so hard to focus because you feel the need to drive more business as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. So I know that we're probably not the only ones out here who can't just focus in a slow season and focus on the internal things and do all the things. Like, sure, yes, we want to, but
can't do the fluff stuff.
We also need to figure out how to drive business. So we're going to walk through 11 different things to do when business is slow, not just focusing on revamping all of the internal things, but actually focusing on things that are going to help you drive business and hopefully remove some of that panic and some of that stress that you're probably feeling during this season.
And we're going to follow these too.
Yes, we are following these. Yes. We're sharing real life tips of things that we have been doing. And we have, like I said, it's felt like more of a hustle than normal. But thankfully, due to some of these tips, we have been hitting our numbers. Mm-hmm. So that is really a relief, especially when it feels slower than normal. So hopefully these tips can kind of help you. You can, whether you're in a slow season right now or that, one's going to happen in the future, you can kind of pocket these for later.
And we also think that these are definitely more manageable. Like Abby was saying, you're not in that super creative space, so don't try to force that. Mm-hmm. Try to do these more manageable things that are easier, quicker. You're in a better headspace with these because you know that they're going to help push that needle forward.
Yeah. So number one, educate. I think this is huge, not only for service-based businesses, but product businesses too, because you created a product that likely you believe is there for a purpose, or you created the product because there's a gap in the market. You can educate on what that gap is, right? Or why you created that product. So it's not just for service-based businesses. But this is something where you have more time. So educating and focusing on educating can help you reach new audiences. So one of the things for us is we have recently, before we've been launching SEO on Tap, we've been hosting free masterclasses, and we've loved that. It's been so fun. Our audience has loved it. And we've actually asked during our last round of SEO on Tap why our non-purchasers didn't purchase, because we wanted to know. And this is a great tip and something that you should do if you're launching courses or launching products. And post-launch, regardless of how the launch went, you should survey your audience, regardless, because you should understand what's happening. So we did this last round and found one, timing wasn't right, which is great to know because that's awesome feedback to know our launches for 2025.
Mm-hmm. This was our first summer launch for SEO on Tap, and we realized that maybe summer wasn't the right time to launch.
Mm-hmm. And we've launched in the summer before for group coaching, and it's gone great. So, but they're two different audiences and two different types of programs. Yep. So it's really good, again, to get the feedback. So one, summer wasn't the right timing, and two, dollars weren't people they felt like it was too expensive. So we're going to talk, we have another episode coming up where we're going to talk all about how price doesn't matter. You should stop focusing on price. So I'm not going to talk about this today, But that's actually a signal for us, not that we need to decrease our price, but that we need to change the perception on value. So stay tuned for that episode because it's coming. I'm not going to go into it now because it's a whole slew of things.
This episode will be far too long.
It will be far too long. But that's definitely something that triggered that thought. So basically, with that price, though, that made us think, okay, how can we help serve our audience at a lower price point, but still bring really awesome value and still help people move their business forward? So we are launching a paid webinar, which will be going live, tomorrow. Based on when this episode is airing, it's going to be live tomorrow. So if you have not registered yet, this is your last chance to register. It's called the SEO Lab, and we are going to walk through creating seasonal content and building your SEO action plan for the end of the year. So actually treating this like a workshop, not just education, but us workshopping together, us figuring out your SEO numbers. There's going to be some pre-webinar homework that you'll get to where we'll be in communication with you. And this webinar is $47. Super affordable. And you are going to get one-on-one time with us. You are going to get that time to where we can actually answer questions about your business, build the SEO action plan. The workbook is like jam-packed with so many resources. So we are super excited about this because we've never done a paid masterclass like this before. But this is just a fun little thing where we have a little bit of extra time right now. Why not spend this time educating in a deeper way with our audience?
Mm-hmm. And I love that it's like kind of a collaboration too, because it's like working. It's not just us educating you. It's actually like working through things for you for SEO. So when Abby sent me the outline the other day, I was like, this is gold. Oh my gosh. Like I was really excited about it. So
it's going to be fun.
Yes.
Cannot wait. So don't worry. The link will be in the show notes so you can sign up and register right there.
Yes. Okay, so number 2, this one is so easy and something that I think people crave and that we probably don't do enough of, but it's networking. And you hear this word all the time, and I'm sure a lot of you are really good at it. Some of you maybe dabble in it, but I think during these times of slowness in your season, this is a really great time to get out and network. So schedule coffees, happy hours, go to community events, go and talk to people. It's really just getting out and talking to other business owners locally, or if you want to network, via online, Zooms or whatever. Talking to people during this time is so important because you never know the connections that you're going to make. And this has happened to us time and time again, year after year, is that we meet somebody, they learn about us, and later they hire us, or they're like, hey, I know somebody who needs a rebrand, or I know somebody who really needs help with SEO, and then they refer them our way. So making these connections is so important online and offline, because you never know if that person is going to end up converting and being a client or sending people your way, or maybe you'll end up collaborating on a project in the future. So it's not just getting out and meeting people and trying to make best friends, which is also highly encouraged. We've made a ton of friends through networking, but it could also be beneficial for your business later on and actually bring you some revenue if those networking events lead to actual clients.
Yeah. I think sitting in front of my computer when business is slow too is like more stressful, or just like induces more panic. Getting out of your house, working at a coffee shop, talking with someone else, having a coffee with someone else, like just having conversations, especially during this season, and even being vulnerable with those people too, because one, people want to help. So you be vulnerable with them. They will likely tell you like, hey, I actually know someone who you can work with. And two, you might also feel, justified, I guess, because other people might be in the same season, and then you're not going to feel so alone. So just talk with people. We also have an episode number 86 with Melissa, and we talked all about business development strategy, which is basically another word for networking, and making sure that you have a business development strategy all year long can really be helpful, not just during slow seasons. So tune into that episode. It's episode 86. It is really great, and she kind of gamifies this process of business development and makes it fun. so that it doesn't feel like another task on your list. So go tune into that if you haven't already.
Yes. Okay, number 3, hot leads first. So really focusing on and nurturing your relationships with your current clients and customers is the perfect spot to start. So if you're working with somebody currently and you're wrapping up a project, making sure that you're just nurturing that relationship with them. And then even, you can even say like, hey, this was so much fun to work with you on. Did you know that we also offer brand collateral? So like if you need help launching that product later, or if you need, slides for something or an email campaign, we can help with graphics and stuff like that too. So really just nurturing those and starting there. And then always remembering that if you have that really great client experience, capturing those reviews, because people go from reviews, they trust reviews. And again, that could help convert somebody that's on the fence on working with you to being an actual paid client. So really focusing on those leads versus trying to necessarily go out and capture a ton of new leads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now talking a little bit about your working in your business too. So I know that sometimes we don't have this creative space to go sit down and write a blog or go sit down and plan out your entire social content calendar. But sometimes focusing on creating automations can actually be really beneficial during this time. So what in your process feels clunky or time consuming? Is now the time to set up ManyChat? Have you not explored doing DM automations in your business? Maybe look at that, because that also is a way to convert people. And even if you're not booking clients or selling products, you have the chance right now to grow your audience. And that can also be a metric that gives you that feeling of success. So if you focus on capturing emails through Instagram and bringing them into your email list, or doing DM automations and driving more traffic to your podcast episodes or your blog posts that you've created, focusing on those automations can be really helpful. So tune into episode 61 if systems and automations is something that you haven't had a time to peek at. We met with Taryn, who is now the partnership lead for Dubsado, and she's also the systems queen. So she has so many tips in there about connections with Zapier and setting up things with Dubsado and all of the different systems and kind of organizing that and building your processes. So if this is something that you feel like you need to dive into, tune into that episode.
Number 5, focus on your content creation. So this is something in your business where you should obviously be doing it all the time, but sometimes you get busy and that content creation falls to the wayside because you're serving your clients before you're serving your own business, which is a whole nother topic that we could talk about. But focus on blogging, podcasting, filling that social media content calendar, emailing your list. If you've got this extra time to really get ahead of those things and batch those things, or really focus on those things, and even maybe look at them and evaluate them. Okay, am I providing the right kind of content? Should I switch something up? Or what content is performing really well? How do we leverage that and build on that? So this is really a good time to sit and focus on that content creation. And again, if you do have a little bit of time and you're in a slow season, you can really batch this stuff to help you in the future for when you do become busy again. We used to have a time on our calendar where we would work on social content together, and that fell off for the longest time because we were so busy. But now we've realized that that's a really important meeting that we need to put back on the calendar. And I can't remember what podcast episode it was that we talked about meetings, but we had a meeting podcast episode not that long ago where it's very interesting how we kind of left the world of meetings. We don't have time for meetings, or, we can do this a different way versus meeting. But then we realized that was actually kind of hurting our business. So that social content meeting has now made its way back onto our calendars. And it's a really good time for us to sit together and create that content together, so that for the next month, we feel really good about the content we're putting out there, and we can easily batch it versus trying to come up with content weekly.
Yeah, episode 133. So if you want to hear more about our meeting structure and how we brought meetings back into our business, tune into that episode. And also tap into your creativity there too. If you do not have a big creative window during this time frame, then work on content that doesn't need you to be super creative. Or like Court said, repurpose your content. So go back to content that you were like, you built a blog post on, but you never shared it across your other platforms. So that can be a really good time to repurpose. And also, if you're not feeling creative, pair up with a friend. So we obviously have each other. So when we do these content planning meetings, we try to like go to a coffee shop, just get out of our own space, like find areas where we can be more creative. Do that with a friend, like meet up with a friend, do an online Zoom, do something to spark that creativity and plan content together, because that can put you in a more creative mindset, which can really help you during this time too.
So that leads into our next one pretty seamlessly, is partnerships. So not just partnering with people like your business besties or a business friend to create content or be creative, but come together and see how you guys can collaborate together. So I did mention collaboration earlier, but this is things like email swaps, podcast swaps, a guest blog, a joint webinar. This allows you to get in front of a completely new audience that you might not already be in front of. So we've done this a handful of times with a few people, and it is awesome because then people start to come to us and inquire about our services, or start to follow us on our podcast and later down the road inquire with us. And they always say like, hey, I learned from you from that email swap that you had with Sarah from BTL Copy. We've done a few with her. So really just being creative in that sense, where you just team up with a business bestie and figure out a way that you guys can do a swap like this, because then again, you're getting in front of a completely new audience that may have never heard you, that might need your services.
Yeah, or pitch to be on podcasts. I cannot tell you the number of times people come in through our contact form and say, I heard about you on so-and-so's podcast. So often. Referral is our biggest lead source behind SEO. So seeing that means that all of the time that we're taking to get in front of other audiences is paying off. Like people are actually inquiring from that. So super duper valuable, and you have the time to focus on pitching other podcasts or doing these collaborations. So take the time to lean into that. Next, listen to your audience. So this is something during the time where, you can just keep bulldozing ahead and doing what you're doing, but chances are something's happening. Like, what's happening? Let's get some answers. So do a survey, like survey your audience, whether it's your email list or do some quick polls on your Instagram stories. It doesn't need to be complicated, but do a quick survey to hear back from people on what this season is like for them. Why are they holding back? Why aren't they spending? What types of content do they want from you? So not even asking about their wallets, but asking about like, what do you want to see from me? What do you want to hear? Like, what are you excited about? And hearing that can give you some direction to move forward. And that's one of the reasons why, like, leaning into, okay, why did our email list not purchase the course? Let's understand what was happening. And now we have a plan to create content that can serve those people regardless of where they sat based on that feedback. So listening to your audience, super important.
Yes.
And then running a sale or promotion during this time. Now, I feel a little, I actually don't love this tip, but
feels like tiny bit.
Yeah,
sleazy,
I think it can. Yeah, I think this can be a short-term solution, and I actually want you to do this based on the results of the survey. I do not want you to run a sale or a promotion just because things are slow, you need to ramp up. I want you first to understand from your audience what's holding them back from buying, because it might not be priced at all. And then all you're doing is lessening the value of your offerings or your products, and that's not helpful for anyone, because you don't need to create a price-conscious audience, right? Or something to hold them back of like, I'll just wait till their next promotion, So this, I'm always a little bit hesitant on. You need to have some good backing to do this. For us, if we are doing any kind of promotion or discount, it's usually around for example, for our services recently, we reached out to old clients and basically had a mini collateral package. This is something we don't normally offer. So it's not like we decrease the value in it, but it's an exclusive kind of offering. So we were able to bring that exclusivity to our existing clients, who we already know aren't going to be nickel and diming us.
Right.
Because we love them.
And we've nurtured our relationships with them, so they know us, they know our process, they know how we work. So it doesn't have to be making a sale or something like that specifically for everybody, like trying to capture everybody. You could go back to clients that you've already served and say, hey, I'm doing this bonus offer for X amount of dollars. This is only to past clients, so it's exclusive. So you could brainstorm and create sales and promotions that way too.
Yeah. And if you want to know a little secret into our business and our launch windows, especially for SEO on Tap, for our course, our waitlist offers, and anytime we've kind of thrown a discount on something or anything like that, they don't, like, that's not the driver of success.
That's not where we get
that's not where we get the most sales. Yeah. Like, we don't get the most sales based on the wait list. We don't get the most sales based on, we threw in a one-time offer, which we don't normally do. So it's not price. Like, that isn't the thing that is holding people back. It's something else. So don't be so hot to just jump on throwing a promotion or a sale in the mix, because that's not always the answer. So sometimes really listen to your audience.
I'm guilty for that sometimes. I'll be like, Abby, let's just slash everything
slash
in half.
the prices.
And she's like, absolutely not. She's like, we are more valuable than that. I need to work on that. Okay, so number 9, explore a new revenue stream. So sometimes this can be hard too, because it takes a little bit of creativity and some more work. But obviously, if we're in a slow season, we have time to put some more energy behind something like this. But let's say you have been wanting to start a membership or an ebook or a digital offer or some sort of a template that people can purchase on your website. This is the time to really focus on that and do the research, build the content, and then build it out and actually push it live. So this, again, is just another way to bring in money. And it's something that once it's built, it's done and it's out there, and you don't have to do a whole lot to nurture it and get it to go. You just have to promote it every once in a while. But it's so incredible once you have these things built and defined and ready to go that you're done with it, essentially, other than promoting it when you want it to, sell, or if it's a promotional window or whatever that may be. So these things are really great for slow seasons to brainstorm these ideas or think of other ways to bring in that extra revenue, especially when slow seasons hit. So you have this, you're building it, you have it out there. So next slow season, you can promote it again, and you can hope that people will start to purchase that or come in through that way. So really just making sure that on top of your products or your services, you have something else that you could promote during a slow season.
Yeah. And start with some low-hanging fruit here. Like, don't worry. Like a course, a huge course. It doesn't have to be a massive course. You can also create a mini course, or you can do memberships is your current community. It's you educating within a community. You don't need to, that doesn't need to be a super pricey thing, and it doesn't need you to create a bunch of content either. So, thinking about little things, ebooks, or creating some type of
digital education PDF that you sell for $27.
Yeah,
for really super
for a freebie. A lot of times we think about freebies, but you can create a freebie that's so valuable, people will pay for it. So think about just low-hanging fruit of what your audience wants. And again, listen to your audience, survey them, ask. So next, let's look at reflecting and just kind of aligning on what's happening. So this, again, is the reason why we talk about the surveys. You should really reflect on what's happening right now. So take some time away from your computer, have those conversations with people, survey your audience, and then also take a peek at your offerings and see if they're feeling aligned to you. So this is a time where maybe something isn't serving you anymore. Maybe the reason people aren't buying is because you're not selling it because you don't love it. What is happening here? This could be something where maybe you're just not in it anymore and you need to make a pivot or make a shift, and that's okay. So
we've
just
had to do this plenty of times throughout the 5 years of our business. We've done this a lot. And if you don't have a business partner, and it's sometimes hard to pinpoint these things or realize what isn't working or what is working, again, grab that biz bestie, or if you have a significant other, grab them and sit down and talk to them and just be vulnerable with them and be like, hey, I have all these offerings, and you know what, I really don't get fired up about this one, but I really love this one. And just kind of talk through those things. Because sometimes we can sit and talk to ourselves, and it's hard because internally you're like, well, no, I should keep it because, you know, maybe it will make me money in the future, but I really don't have heart for it. You can have an internal battle all day long, but if you talk to somebody about it, even if you don't have a business partner like we do, sometimes just saying it out loud will help you to make your decision moving forward on if it's working or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then last but not least, probably one of the most important things you can do during this time is organize your finances. So being that CFO hat for Duo, it's something where during slower seasons, understanding our numbers is so important. And I know that I immediately feel anxious or just kind of out of whack if I don't have visibility to what's happening from the number standpoint. Like if I'm not clear on what's coming in and what's going out, I just start to feel a little bit stressed out. So understanding all of our numbers is super important to us, and we already have a really good process for how we manage this month to month, quarter to quarter. We've talked about Val, our finance coach, so often. She right now is actually making a big pivot in her business, so you can go tune into her podcast to kind of hear more about that. But she has a course which is basically verbatim for what we do in our business and how we manage our finances. And right now she's offering $350 off her course with the code CIC podcast. So we'll put this in the show notes, but she's doing that for this year because she's making a pivot next year in her business. So she wants to give this course to anyone who needs it and just help them manage their finances and grow their business. So if this is something where you feel like you haven't taken the time to really focus on organizing your finances and having good financial workflows, then please go get this. Go check this out because it's a game changer. And even just having the ability to take a look at all of your expenses, what's coming out month to month, what's happening. Court and I have had conversations these past few months too of where could we cut back? What could we run a really lean business.
We do. So lean. I'm very proud of us for that.
It is lean.
But we got to a point where we were we really couldn't hardly cut anything.
Yeah.
Everything. And again, it's because we're lean and we're smart about what we are putting money into. But we couldn't cut too much.
Even our bookkeeper is you guys run pretty lean. And luckily, we're service providers that don't need a lot of expenses. So the expenses that we do have are things to help us market and run our business. So there is not a lot of cutback that we can do, but that's because we know our numbers really well and we're not spending money on stupid things. We look at things every quarter. So we signed up for ad event because we thought maybe we needed it for the course. So I just signed up for a 1 month and then I was oh, I need to make sure I cancel it before this next month because we're not using it. We're on top of that stuff. So we're not spending stupid money monthly on things that we're not using, because we know what's coming out every month because we have really organized finances with spreadsheets from Val that really help us track all of this. And that takes away the stress when you're in a slower season of business. So definitely go check that out. So there you have it. Your 11 things for surviving a slow season of business. So we hope that this stuff has inspired you. If you're in a slow season, know that we have them too. We're in one right now. It's slower than normal. You're not alone. And we're all going to come out on top. So hang in there.
If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please go ahead and leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We absolutely love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.